The Last of Us Part 2 originally was released in June of 2020, and upon its release got mixed reviews. I actually skipped over the game altogether because of those mixed reviews, but it was on sale on PS5 now. There's a remaster for PS5 basically, and I decided to give it a shot. If nothing else, it was about $10, so I figured, what the hell? Let's give it a shot. But upon playing it, I realized that the reviews were all over the place. I went back and read some of them and watched some of them on YouTube, and some people were like, this is a 2, some people were like, this is a 10. So I decided the only way to really get down to the bottom of this game and what it really is to play it myself. And I did play it and I completed it, and I see both sides of the argument, but I just kind of wanted to deep dive into this and see what the game is, what it's like, why everybody feels this way, and what we could do to fix it possibly. Because a lot of the issues are just with the story, really. Now, graphically, this game is a pretty significant update, especially if you played the original on PS3. This is huge. This game is beautiful. You can see from the footage. This is one of the best looking games I've ever played in my life. I don't know what it looks like on PS4. I've seen videos, but on PS5, I could definitely vouch for this. It looks incredible. I'm not sure if it's the art style or the technology or what, but for me, just for me, this is a 10 out of 10 visually. And I think if you just want to pick it up for something pretty to look at, which I did for I think about 10 or 20 bucks, I figured I'd give the visuals a shot. Now, the gameplay is kind of a different story. It is extremely, extremely similar to the first game, with a little bit of upgrades here and there. You're still going to scavenge for gear and bullets, crafting materials. You're still going to go in and out of buildings. You're still going to kill clickers or zombies or whatever. You're still going to run into rival factions and stuff like that and kill them. Not a huge change there. They did add a dodge mechanic and a dodge button with the L1 button, and it's usually used in combat to try to avoid getting hit. And it's really interesting. It makes for interesting gameplay. Now here's a clip of me kind of showcasing that off. You'll see I'll shoot somebody and then we'll get in a scuffle here. They push you away. The AI is pretty good. You could dodge and then start striking again. So you dodge with L1 and then you strike again with your square button, which is like the melee button or the knife button. Other than that, you can see the gameplay is pretty much the same as the first game. Not a whole lot has changed. There are a few new weapons and stuff like that, but as everybody probably has figured out by this point, unless you've been living under a rock, there are 2 characters that you play as. This is gameplay with Ellie from the first game, and then there's gameplay with Abby. Now, at first glance, they don't look very different. You're doing exactly the same things, but if you look beyond the surface level, there is a pretty big difference. Ellie is a bit more stealthy. You could even look at their frames, and their gameplay kind of matches their frames. Ellie's a little bit on the skinny side, a little bit smaller. Abby has a huge physique, giant arms, stuff like that. Looks like she's been working out for a really long time, and getting ready for something. And you could kind of see here from the gameplay, a lot of Ellie's weapons are like bow and arrow, traps, stuff like that. And you kind of see me lurking and trying not to get caught. using, silenced weapons. So a lot of her stuff is kind of hide in the shadows, lay down traps, think of your next move. If you're into kind of stealthy games, her play style is really, really cool. Abby is more of a brute. Her play style is really more of her play style is more of kind of in your face, kind of a brute. She's kind of tanky. So you can see here, I'm not really taking much precautions. I'm using a crossbow, which I feel like Abby's weapons are actually a lot better. She seems to get a lot of stuff. She gets a crossbow, she gets a flamethrower, she gets this gun, which was my favorite gun in the game. And it's called a hunting pistol. And it usually one-shots everything. And you could put a scope on it for 4x zoom, and it's just the best weapon in the game, and I loved it. I absolutely used it at every time that I had the chance, anytime I had ammo. And the other thing about it is Abby can craft her own ammo at a certain point if you upgrade her skills, whereas Ellie really can't. She could do incendiary arrows, a few traps, and that's about it. It feels like also the skill trees were geared more towards making Abby way stronger than Ellie, and she just comes off as the better playthrough. So there is a point in the game where you switch from Ellie to Abby, and it's quite a big point. It's about 8 to 10 hours. In here, they'll kind of take you through some of the backstory and how we got to this point. There's a lot of flashbacks going on here and there. But besides that, you kind of start picking up skills and things like that, and you get to see the difference between them, and the difference is pretty vast in my opinion. Initially, hitting the ground running with Abby, you kind of get like everything up front, whereas you just played 10 hours with Ellie, and it feels like she's kind of scraping by on whatever she finds and blah, 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 blah. Whereas Abby is kind of just like out the box. She gets, I think one of her modifiers is like 60% extra health, and it comes really early on. Now, the way that you upgrade your character with either one of them is you take these pills, or you find this medication around the world, or vitamins or supplements, and find these vitamins and supplements. If you get a certain number of them, it allows you to upgrade to the next skill down. And you have to go in order. You can't kind of jump around, but you can jump around in the different skill categories. So there's like stuff for stealth, hunting, life, etc. And you get to kind of customize the character depending on how you want it. So just to recap, visually this game is awesome. When you're sneaking up on people and killing them, you could literally see the life exiting their body through their face. The expressions are amazing, the animations are amazing. I don't have any issue with the graphics. My issue was a little bit more with the story and the gameplay. Now, if you like the gameplay in the first game, you're going to love this because it's just an update upon that with, little features added here and there. For me, just for me, this felt like it was very stale. Felt like a 2013 game at certain points. It felt like they didn't do enough. They should have overhauled it and made it so that your character moves a little bit more smoothly and swiftly, because in a lot of my showdowns with the enemies, I felt like I was kind of unfairly, whether it's due to the camera or just the cumbersome controls and everything, I was unfairly losing those battles or getting gunned down because it just felt really clunky. So gameplay wise for me, I didn't like it. However, I liked the sequences where I was killing the enemies because it just felt very satisfying. So it's somewhere in between for me as far as the gameplay goes. It's somewhat satisfying, yet somewhat unpolished. So I'm going to put it somewhere in the middle for the gameplay. Now, in order to continue and talk about the story itself, we're going to have to spoil everything. You can't talk about this game without spoiling everything. So what I did is I kind of mashed up the whole story in a 20-minute segment, and I'm going to put it in there, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to fix this thing. So if you don't want any spoilers, you stop the video right now, because not only am I going to go through everything in the story, I'm also going to go through how we could have fixed the story and how this game could have ended up a lot better. So the next however many minutes are going to be all spoiler filled. I believe you should have enough information right here to make a decision. If you like the way the game looks and you like the original's gameplay, you're good to go. Pick this one up. It's like $10 or $20 on PS5. The game pretty much starts out with Tommy and Joel running into Abby and saving her life, and then they all post up in this cabin where she already knows his identity and she's waiting to torture him. They just have no idea yet. Everybody goes inside the cabin where Abby reveals she knows who Joel is and basically shoots him in the leg and starts to begin working on him by beating him with a golf club, which leads to Ellie eventually catching up to them and witnessing this. Abby's crew knocks down Ellie, forces her to watch the end where they kill him, and then they finish him off and knock her out, and we're off to the races with this revenge tale. After the elaborate death scene of Joel, we have Tommy pleading with Ellie to try to go get Abby. Eventually, she caves in. She's like, okay, let's go kill that bitch. Then you have the first day in Seattle, which is a bunch of boring shit with you and Dina just riding around on a horse, plugging stuff in, getting generators working, and eventually you get some leads and you kind of get closer to solving the Abby mystery. Then you get ambushed by a bunch of assholes right here, which are part of Abby's crew. Dina's knocked out. This guy that Ellie slashed in the face captures her, and basically these guys talk about, what are we going to do? Are we going to kill her or keep her alive? And then Dina comes to the rescue. Oh wait, no, Dina dropped through the glass. Oh no, what's going to happen? What's going to happen in this really long, really drawn out scene where this guy's holding a gun and he could just shoot Dina in the face, but he doesn't. He's like, fuck you, and talk shit, and I'm gonna punch her in the face anyway, then I'm gonna kick her. Eventually Ellie gets free and slices this guy's throat. Then we're off to the races again. Oh wait, we find a movie theater and Dina and Ellie confide in each other, and basically Ellie tells her that she's immune and Dina tells her that she's preggers. Dun, dun, dun. Last guy she dated was Jesse. So I'm pretty sure Ellie figured it out in 2 seconds, just like the rest of us. And then Ellie goes on her adventure to figure out where Abby is. She eventually runs into these guys. It's Nora. Nora was there at the time of the Joel killing. Nora was the one who actually knocked Tommy out with the gun. And after some torture and beating and all that fun stuff, eventually Ellie gives her the promise that, hey, I'll make this quick if you just tell me where the fuck Abby is. And she does. She eventually caves. She says it, but you don't hear it. And then we move on to the movie theater. Ellie develops Parkinson's, as you can see right here with her hand shaking and her fist clenching. Nah, I'm just playing. She just knocks on the door after being frazzled with the whole encounter with Nora. She's still freaking out about the fact that she had to beat somebody to death to get information. But such is life. It is what it is. She's finally back to the home base, well, the temporary Seattle home base, and she's greeted by Dina and Jesse, who has finally caught up with them. Jesse kind of set out shortly after them and caught up with them. I think he mentions he's like a day later or a few hours later. And here we have Ellie just revealing where she thinks Abby is hiding, which is the aquarium. But we get a flashback scene, such as many in this game. It's basically Ellie going to the hospital where everything at the end of the first game's events went down. Joel killing the fireflies and all that. And she finds a tape recording that basically is Joel. And it lets her know that he kind of was hiding all this stuff from her. And she confronts him about it and comes clean finally. And her reaction is basically like, how dare you save my life? You should have given me the choice to suicide myself. And he's like, yeah. Then we're back at the theater after the flashback. Ellie wakes up. She talks to Jesse. She tells him everything. She spills the beans. Hey, Dina's preggers. After that revelation, I believe Jesse goes and talks to Dina, confronts her, asks her what's going on. And then you go on the best part of the game that, in my opinion, is the Jesse and Ellie adventures. And I truly think you could have made a game just off these two alone. Their banter back and forth is actually pretty good. And they make a pretty good team in slaying. Their objective is to find Tommy, which they eventually do. And everybody regroups back at the cinema. Once you're back at the cinema, You discuss plans, and it's revealed that Ellie knows that Abby's in an aquarium in Seattle. Then Ellie actually makes it to that aquarium, finds these two sweet people here arguing over dish towels. Owen goes for the gun because he thinks he's a brave big man and Ellie's a small girl that he can overtake. And then she's like,
bad decision.
She knocks his ass out, shoots him, and then she proceeds to defend herself against Mel, which at this point she's not aware that Mel is pregnant, just like Dina. So after she actually kills her, she examines the body. She discovers, after opening the zipper jacket, oh my god, there's a baby in there. Oh no, what did I do? Why am I like that? Back to the movie theater where debriefing and more shenanigans happen. And we open this door and boom, Jesse's gone. He's out of the story permanently. R.I.P. Jesse, I really loved you. Abby is here and she got the drop on Tommy. Ellie starts saying, you don't want him, you want me. Your pappy's dead because of me. I was the cure girl. She fills her in on the whole story, and she's asking to spare Tommy. At this point, Abby kind of looks at her and says, like, you just killed my friends. I gave you guys a second chance, and you guys wasted it. Which leads to a flashback scene of Abby with her dad, and they're going through and saving a zebra, and it's very touching, I guess, if you have feelings and you're one of those people. I felt nothing, so I was like, okay, they're trying to make us like Abby. I get it. I see what they're trying to do. She's nice, she's gentle, she's just really out here for revenge. Then Abby actually wakes up and you catch up to Seattle Day 1, which is supposed to mirror the Seattle Day 1 for Ellie, where she was riding on the horse with Dina. You're awakened by Manny. You guys go around the complex. You dap everybody up at the complex. You get a couple of burritos. They show you that these people are really nice people. They train dogs. They love dogs. Did I mention that they love dogs? Yep. Look, dogs. They really love dogs. They're animal lovers. Meanwhile, throughout the story, Ellie is killing dogs. Ellie bad. Abby good. Wolf's good. Then you go on a murder rampage with these people, and eventually, when you get back to base, you're summoned by the leader of the wolves, whose name is Isaac. When you get to town, you end up speaking to Nora. Nora shows you Danny's lifeless body, and it's been rumored that Owen actually killed him. You go talk to Isaac. Isaac's like, Nora told you, didn't she? And you're like, yeah. And you're like, can I talk to Owen first, bro? Before we throw him out the crew? He's like, nah, fuck Owen. Then another flashback to 3 years earlier. You're shown the romance between these two, how Abby and Owen know each other and why she wants to go out looking for him, getting the real story. And then we're introduced to a new faction in the game, who seem to be the main enemy of the wolf faction and communicate through whistles.
Sure they got no stripes, but I can make your pussy whistle.
After that sequence, Abby actually gets captured by the Whistle crew, and she's brought here for their weird form of justice. She's strung up and slightly tortured a bit before there's a distraction. A girl named Yara is brought in. She seems to be some sort of traitor of the Whistler crew, and she betrayed them somehow. It's never really explained. They hammer one of her arms, and as they're getting ready to hammer her second arm, boom, arrow. Somebody in the distance comes to save her. She takes the hammer, she kills the guy. She tries to kill this chick, which I guess is the leader of the Whistle people. And she grabs the hammer, goes for her, and then Abby, with the assist, comes out of nowhere, chokes her out. They basically escape together and they get acquainted, and turns out it's Yara's little brother named Lev. They flee into the forest. Basically, they find shelter somewhere. Big complex, and they split rooms. One of them takes one trailer, the other one takes another. But Abby's just so thirsty that night that she goes and she ends up finding Owen, and sex ensues. And then the next morning, she goes to check on Yara, and it turns out, oh my god, her arm is swollen. It looks fucking hideous. She's met by Mel. She's expecting Owen. She did not know that, and it seems like Mel knows what's going on between the two of them or what happened last night. So they take Yara to the examination table, and they're like, yeah, this is disgusting. And they're basically explaining that they don't have the tools to fix her arm. It's going to need to be amputated, but they have no surgical tools. So at this point, Abby and Lev head off, and Abby's just like,
I'll do it.
Do what?
I don't know, whatever y'all were trying to do out here.
Are you kidding?
Does it look like I'm kidding?
after a long and arduous journey, they get the tools to save Yara's ass, and they head back. Once they get back, there is a kind of hallway hospital waiting scene where they found out that the surgery was successful, and Abby and Mel have a little chat, and Mel is like, "You're a piece of shit. I know what you did with Owen last night. Don't try to hide that shit." And Abby's like, "What? How did you... what?" And then Mel's like, "Listen, I'm gonna go to Santa Barbara with Owen, but not if you go." And Abby's like, "All right, I guess I'm not going." Then Owen tries to have the chat with her, and he's like, "Hey, are you coming?" And she's like, "Nah, I can't." And he's like, "Why not?" And she's like, "Your girlfriend fucking hates me." Then Owen tries to finesse his way into a three-way relationship, which every guy dreams of. And Abby's like, "Nah, man, I know what you're trying to do. It's not gonna work out. I'm just gonna go do my own thing." And Owen's like, "Okay, I guess I'll just have blue balls." After that, Yara awakens. Abby talks to her. They discuss that their mom is nutty, Yara and Lev. She lives on the island. And the Whistle people are really into their religion or whatever their beliefs. Yara and Lev have been trying to escape, but the mom is really like deep into this cult. And Yara does not believe that Lev could free her, but he's just like, "Screw it, I'm gonna go back to the island and try to get our mom back anyways." Yara's like, "Somebody's gotta help me get this little fool back." Abby's like, "I guess I could go on a journey with you and get him back." Owen starts simping and running after Abby, being like, "I could help. You guys shouldn't do this alone." And Mel's like, "Dude, what the hell? We got a baby." And then Abby kind of just looks at him and she's like, "Get your priorities straight." After some useless scenes, it ends up that we run into Manny on our way to the boats, and he's like, "Hey, are you here to help?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, bro." They make it close to the sniper. Bam, sniper gets Manny. And it turns out that the sniper was Tommy all along. Abby wrestles the gun out of his hand, knocks him off a bridge, steals a boat, and they make it to the island. And once her and Yara make it to the island, they actually do find Lev. A little too late, though. The mom has been killed. It's kind of hinted that Lev killed the mom because she tried to kill him because she's a
Crazy bitch. Crazy bitch.
Yara gets shot. Who does she get shot by? Abby's own people and Isaac. She has a confrontation with Isaac, but with her last breath, Yara shoots Isaac just to give them enough time to run away. Abby and Lev take off. Then we go back to where we left off on the character switch with Ellie and Abby. Back to the theater where Abby and Lev get to drop off Tommy and knock his ass out or down. And then Ellie and Jesse walk in. Of course, Jesse gets shot, and Ellie comes out and tries to negotiate with her. But Tommy jumps up and gives Ellie a chance to run away, even though he gets shot again. And the chase begins. Then you have a fight scene between Abby and Ellie. Eventually, Abby kicks the tar out of her, and Dina comes in to save the day, only to also get her ass kicked by Abby. But not because she sucks. It's because they cheated and Lev shot her in the back with an arrow. Abby tries to kill Dina. Ellie tells her that Dina's pregnant, and she's gonna go ahead and slit her throat anyways. But then Lev is like, "Dude, what are you doing? She's pregnant. Let's get the fuck out of here." And end scene. We're taken to the next chapter, one of the last chapters in the game, thank God, and it is the farm. The farm shows you how Dina has finally given birth to the baby. Tommy comes to visit, and Tommy is trying to guilt trip Ellie once again into giving up her life to avenge Joel. And Ellie's kind of conflicted, and Dina's kind of getting in the middle of it, like, yo, we got a good thing going here. Like, what the hell are you trying to do? Ellie has a nightmare about Joel. She leaves, of course, because she's never going to listen to Dina. And we flash forward to Santa Barbara, where Owen had discussed with Abby that there might be fireflies there. So she goes looking for them, and she actually does make radio contact with them, but they get ambushed by these dudes who turn out to be another faction, a bunch of freakazoids who like to enslave people and torture them. These guys like to basically string people up. I'm not sure if they're like a religious fanatical group or something like that, but basically they take Lev and they take Abby, and then it's shown that eventually Ellie makes it to Santa Barbara herself, and upon being in this place, she sees that things are not normal. There are people running around scared for their life, being chased by other people, and she tries to stay in the shadows and protect herself, and she does for the most part. Eventually, she runs into this weird culty group. They capture her as well, but of course, it's Ellie. She gets a drop on them. She beats the tar out of them, and she gets them to confess where their base is. Then we actually find Abby at that base. We free her, and she frees Lev. And Ellie is like, you owe me a rematch, even though you used to be 300 pounds and now you're 87 pounds. I want my rematch, bitch. And Abby's like, dude, I don't care. I'm just trying to save this kid. Like, you don't get it? There's boats over there. We could all get out of here. And then she has some flashbacks of Joel dying. And then she's like, nah, fam, I can't let this go. And then basically she coerces Abby into a fight with her by putting a knife to Lev's neck and being like, you're going to fight me whether you want to or not. And of course, Abby's like, dude, you're not going to hurt this kid. Let's go. The fight happens. It's pretty brutal, but in the end, Ellie has some images of Joel, and she's like, I can't do this. I'm just gonna let you go for some reason. And basically, Abby and Lev go off into the sunset, and Ellie's kind of just left there, wondering where she went wrong in her life, feeling guilty about all this, feeling weird about this whole situation. Like, yeah, I know I was here to murder you, but no, I'm having second thoughts. I'm having performance anxiety. I really don't feel like killing you anymore. So you could just take that little bitch and go. And then we're left with this really sad scene with Ellie kind of sulking in the ocean and trying to figure out where her life went wrong. And she's like, you know what? I'm just gonna pack it up and I'm gonna go home. This leads us back to the farm with a fingerless Ellie. Well, she's still got 3 of the other ones, I guess. Well, maybe if you count thumbs as fingers. I don't know. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. She makes it back to the farm, expecting to find Dina, but what she finds instead is a completely empty house. That's right, Dina has had enough of her little revenge bullshit. She packed up the kid, packed up everything, and left. And basically, her quest for revenge has left her all alone. This leads us to the room where she had Joel's guitar, where she has a moment of contemplation and she attempts to play the guitar, but she's unable to now because she's lost her fingers in the battle with Abby. She backtracks to the last conversation that she had with Joel at his house when she came to visit right before he passed away. And basically the conversation involves forgiveness and how in the beginning she was kind of, pushing him away and saying, it's going to be really hard for me to forgive you for not giving me the choice to give my life up for the cure, but I'd like to try. I'd like to really try. While still looking extremely depressed, he accepts her offer, and there's a little glimmer in his eyes of happiness that she's at least willing to forgive him and maybe they could move past this in time. Then we see Ellie put the guitar down, grab her backpack, walking out, knowing that she's pretty much lost everything and everyone on her quest for revenge, only to find out that revenge was a waste of time anyways. And now, how do we fix this whole mess? We start off with a young Abby and her father in the forest. The same scene that we have. We're not changing anything here really, but it's just shown here and really inserted to illustrate that these people are just like everybody else trying to make it through this apocalypse, and just like every other survivor group that's perceived as good, they're just regular people surviving day to day. They have families, they have friends, similar to the Jackson crew, and they're just about as normal as pretty much any other faction that you've ever seen, other than the weird, creepy, psychotic ones. We catch up with Abby's father, struggling to make the decision about whether or not he should kill Ellie. And nothing changes here. Everything plays out pretty much the same. And we're shown this just to see that Abby and her father and the Fireflies are not actually monsters. They're really struggling with this decision, and they're really trying to not kill Ellie. So he kind of does a lot of thinking, and Abby is eavesdropping. She walks in and says exactly what she normally says. If it were me, I'd want you to do it. Because she wanted to sacrifice herself. And she would understand. And that brings us to the fact that Abby's not really such a bad person. We also see the relationship between her and Owen the next day. We see, how they used to date, how they did get along great, and how, their relationship's kind of cute and everything's kind of nice. And then we see the facility itself. We see that there are school children. We see that there are cafeterias. We see that people get along here. People hang out and just get along, and everything's going like normal, like a real facility. They have, everything that you would need to survive. They have a cafeteria again. They have a medical area. They have everything like that, and we're just introduced to like the random characters around in this shelter, like Mel, Manny. We get to spend a little bit of time with them. We get to see that they have a sense of humor, or they're maybe some of them are actually really nice. Some of them are kind of sweet. Some of them are funny. So we get to kind of humanize these people and see that they are not really that bad. They're just trying to do whatever they can do to survive, and they're just like everybody else in the apocalypse. Again, I'll say it again. They're just like everybody else, normal people. They even raise dogs, and they're even, very pet friendly and pro-pet. But just like everybody else, they have to do things once in a while that they don't want to do. They're slightly conflicted about it, but they look at it as for the greater good. While we're exploring this, Nora stops us and says, I have something to show you guys. And we're walking through the complex, and we walk into this room that's like a morgue with bodies stacked up everywhere. The bodies keep coming in left and right, and they're not the typical enemy wounds that they see from the rival faction, the Scars. Nora notices that these are done with a different kind of weapon, a sniper rifle. And this is not the regular MO of the Scars. This is somebody new. This leads Manny and Abby to believe that there's maybe a third faction that's trying to kill them. They go investigate it, and of course, Manny gets killed here. The sniper almost gets Abby, but she slips away. She finds out that that sniper is actually Joel, and she confronts him, attacks him. They have a scuffle. They catch up with Tommy and Joel at a cabin, and they interrogate them and ask them why this all happened. Joel says, your people shot first. We're in there just scavenging for supplies. Abby calls bullshit on that. and shoots Joel and knocks out Tommy. And at this time, we're going to remove the Ellie part from that whole situation, so it was just the two of them. Ellie's not present at the time, but Tommy is. Tommy tells Ellie everything that happened, and she's on her quest for revenge to avenge Joel. Tommy paints a picture that what was done to Joel was not very just or fair, and they didn't even give us a chance. This leads Ellie to catch up with Nora and try to get the whole story and Abby's location. Eventually she does, and then we cut back to Abby. Abby actually is out on a scouting mission when she gets caught by the Scars. She's of course saved by Yara and Lev as normal. Nothing's changed here either. And the three of them get away, taking care of each other. At first, Abby is very weary of these new people. She's not sure if she could trust them because this is kind of like their mortal enemy. Then Lev and Yara explain to Abby, we're not a part of that group anymore. We're trying to get out. We want nothing to do with them and their psychotic ways. We're just looking for a way out. We mean you no harm, and we can part our ways as soon as we get to safety. Which they pretty much do. The next morning, she runs into Owen and Mel, and Yara's arm is in need of some medical supplies, so she ends up volunteering to go with Lev and get the medical supplies for her. And after, a really long journey, she is successful. They do get the medical supplies. Yara is patched up, but again, this is where we have Lev running away, and it's up to Yara and Abby to go find him and bring him back. But before that all goes down, we have kind of a scene just explaining how Mel feels about Abby, and that she knows that she's trying to get back together with Owen, and Abby denies it, but we seem to know that there's something more going on. Even though we're not shown, there's probably some proof or something that Mel knows that we don't know. So, of course, they have the conversation, and she calls her a piece of shit. She doesn't trust her, and at this point, Abby's kind of conflicted about who she is and if she's doing the right thing, and if, she feels guilty about the whole Joel thing as well. And she's just really conflicted about the whole situation in general. Then we have the recovery of Lev from the island with Abby and Yara, but of course things play out the same way that we saw them play out, where Abby actually ends up defending Lev because Yara gets shot by Isaac. Isaac tells her that these people are savages and she shouldn't care about them because they're not her people, and we're trying to win a war here. And she's like, I know these two, they're good people. Can we just please just let them go? And this is where Yara jumps out, shoots Isaac, giving them a chance to get away. Back to the aquarium, where we find the dog has been killed. Alice, the dog that we saw earlier. Mel has been killed, and Owen has been killed. At this point, Abby's pissed off, and she finds the map and figures that it was Ellie that's done this, and she's just extremely angry and out for revenge. She goes back to the movie theater, and this is where she runs into Tommy and Ellie and Jesse. Jesse surprises her. She shoots him just on reflex. Everything here pretty much stays the same. We're not going to change anything here either. Whereas Abby is just trying to explain, why did you do this? You murdered my friends. You murdered my family. You did all this stuff. You couldn't just let it rest. And then we have the chase scene, the fight. She beats the tar out of her. Of course, Dina also gets arrowed to the back by Lev. And right when Abby's ready to kill Dina, she has a flashback. And it's a few nights prior where she was hanging out with Owen after they escaped, and basically he just says the same thing he says here. He doesn't want to fight anymore. He's tired of this. He wants out, and he knows she does too, and he's basically convincing her that all this violence is worthless. So, seeing enough death, Abby leaves. She takes Lev, and they're off. They want to go to Santa Barbara to escape. So we get back to the farm. Tommy is, of course, got his limp. He didn't die, but he did get shot by Abby. He goes back and tries to convince Ellie to jump back into this war. She has her, regular guilt trip and nightmares, and she gets guilted into it by Tommy. And of course, she wants to go to Santa Barbara and catch up with Abby and claim her revenge. And we make it to Santa Barbara. We see Lev and Abby making contact with the Fireflies, only to be ambushed by this other faction of weird people who kidnap them and basically almost, leave them within an inch of their lives, basically crucified and tied up. No food, no water. Ellie finally catches up. She finds out what's going on. She gets to the base, and to her surprise, Lev and Abby are completely emaciated, and at this point, Ellie still wants to kill them, but Abby pleads with her and says, "Let's end this foolishness. I let you go. Just let me go. All I want to do is to get him to safety, please." And she's pleading with her and telling her, "Look where all of this has gotten us. My friends are dead. Your family's dead. Let's just not do this." Suddenly, Ellie gets a flashback again of her last conversation with Joel and how all he wanted was forgiveness. And given the chance, he probably would have done a lot of things different. But the one thing that's never changed is how much he loves her, and he hopes that one day she could forgive him for everything he's done. This sparks the redemptive arc for Ellie to forgive now, and she basically tells Abby to take Lev and leave, and she tells her that she forgives her. And then we pretty much cut back to the farm where she finds out that Dina's gone with the baby and she's got nothing left, and this revenge quest has left her all alone, only to have one last memory flashback of the scene with her and Joel in the museum, and wishing kind of in a way that she could go back to those days, but at least she'll always have those memories. She then puts the guitar down, and we fade to black, and that's the end of the story. And now we made it to the final thoughts and wrapping up section, and I just wanted to go over why I think this makes more sense. First of all, you don't have to really take out too much of the story or really mess with too much of what we already have here. It just has to be restructured, and you have to make it less Ellie and Joel centric and more Abby centric. So that way we get to know this person and we don't hate them 10 hours into the game when we have to switch over them and play another 10 hours with this character. You get to see them, you get to see that they're like actually not bad people. And even if they're not your favorite faction, even if you're still like, nope, I like the people from Jackson, you can't deny that they're at least not really bad people. Whereas in the original story, you're introduced to them in the worst way possible. You're introduced with them murdering Joel, a beloved character. And I know that Neil Druckmann probably wanted to make it so that way, like, let me make you hate them and then let me make you love them. And it's just like that second part failed because we never got over the hatred we had for them. But if you did it in reverse, maybe we wouldn't love Abby and the Wolves, but maybe we'd understand why they did what they did. Another thing is, this is a petty revenge tale of my dad and your dad. You killed mine, I'm gonna kill yours. Whereas restructuring the story to where the Jackson crew is actually a threat to them makes it look like it's done more in self-defense. So it's really not that bad for Abby to kill Joel or even Tommy or whoever if they were filling up their morgue with bodies, which kind of was originally hinted at of why Abby was going after Ellie for those 3 days. But she finds her at the theater, and again, like a dumbass, she lets her go. Made no sense to me, made no sense to anybody. So this way, there's a reason why she lets her go this time when she finds her in the theater. She's gone through that journey of, tit for tat, revenge is useless. She's lost everybody. She's already seen how Lev and Yara tried to escape their faction and how Isaac is a nut job and she just wants to get away from it all. She also focuses on the fact that Owen said he wants to get away from it all, and there is a way to get away from it all. She also has the flashback with Owen telling her, like, you could do the same thing, you're the same, you just don't want to admit it. And she has Lev standing right there, and she's just been through so much, and there's been so much death, where that portion makes sense for her to walk away once and give Ellie a chance to live. Removing Ellie from the cabin completely makes it so much better because she actually has no idea, and she's being told what went down by Tommy. So it makes more sense to me that, like, she wasn't there, she's angry, she's just filled with rage that Joel is gone. Also, she has Tommy kind of manipulating her from the beginning. Twice he gets her to try to go after Abby. Once when they find out she's in Seattle, and the second time in Santa Barbara. And it makes Tommy look like kind of a scumbag in a way. This also adds a little gray area to Tommy and Joel in multiple ways. One, they were kind of the instigators, so you're like, well, they're not completely innocent and sweethearts. And two, you have Tommy twice trying to pull the strings in the background and manipulate Ellie into going on this quest for revenge, which is like, you were there and you guys kind of instigated it, but now all of a sudden you're like trying to pretend that you're innocent. And keep in mind, Ellie doesn't know what actually went down. All she knows is that these people killed Joel, and that's what Tommy's telling her. So it could add a layer of doubt in the back of her head, like, can I trust Tommy? Because I wasn't there and I don't know what really went down. So it makes Tommy into kind of more of a gray area character rather than, oh no, all the people on the Jackson side are angels and everybody on Abby's side is just garbage. Making it so that way Tommy and Joel are kind of in a gray area to begin with actually fits in with the first game really well also, because in the first game, in the end, Joel took it into his hands to decide whether Ellie should be sacrificed or not, which is part of the friction between them in this game. But he so desperately just didn't want to lose a second daughter that he made the choice, because the first time it happened he felt so helpless. This time he wasn't helpless. The choice was in his hands. But was it right for him to not sacrifice one person to save the whole world? And would it have been right for him to sacrifice this one person to come up with the cure, to actually kill her or hand her off to be killed, and trading a life for multiple lives? Is it ever ethical to say, we could kill this one person, but it'll save a whole bunch of lives? I don't know. But I think that this, adding a little bit of grayness to this and making it similar to the first game where you have to question the actions of the quote-unquote heroes, makes for a more intriguing story all around. Anyways, I'm rambling. I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts in the bottom. Let me know if there's anything you would change, or if you have your own version of the game that you guys kind of were thinking about or would enjoy seeing rather than what I did or what Naughty Dog did. But anyways, that's it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one.